Aloha and welcome to Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com. I'm your host, Janet Lesson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lesson, who is an anthropologist. Today is an episode of Enki Speaks on the Aquarian Radio Network. This program is part of a series called The Anunnaki and Us, 30 chapters of our history, starting 4.5 billion years ago to 311 BCE. This program today is Chapter 19, When Years of Peace, Then Seth Killed Osiris. And now, here is our co-host, Dr. Sasha Lesson. Take it away, sweetheart.
Okay. The Anunnaki renewed our crops and beasts. They built a worldwide civilization with a base on Mars. Enlil, Enki, Inanna, Adad, and Ninurta, Utu, and Nanar in Sumer, that's their names, of these people from Nibiru. They gave us urban societies, kingship, temples, and priesthoods. The Anunnaki gave us festivals, beer, culinary recipes, art, music, musical instruments, musical notes, and dance. From these Anunnaki, we got writing, we got record keeping, we got medicine, we got textiles, multicolored apparel. The plants, animals, guidance, and knowledge the Anunnaki left us. Let us multiply. This is after the flood. We built them magnificent temples and cities. To make their cities, they showed us brick making. They taught us to make bronze implements. They let us help build a new spaceport on the Sinai Peninsula. And both Anunnaki factions after the flood, 1,000 years after the flood, both the descendants of Enlil, the commander, and the descendants of Enki, the chief scientist, as well as our ancestors, the Earthlings that were helping them. That was the adapted Nibiran genotype that we are. All together, all the factions and all the kinds of humans renewed the crops and the beasts of Earth. They cooperated, they synergized, they practiced 1,000 years of peace, the Sata Yuga.
The farming the gods gave us in Sumer spread over the world from the Near Eastern mountains and highlands. They gave us wheat and barley, then millet, rye, spelt, flax for fibers and edible oil, onions, lentils, beans, cucumbers, cabbage, lettuce, apples, apricots, cherries, pears, olives, figs, almonds, pistachios, walnuts, as well as tame dogs, geese, ducks, sheep, goats, and pigs. They showed us how to weave fiber into cloth, make flour, bread, porridge, cakes, pastries, biscuits, yogurt, butter, cream, cheeses, beer, and wine. They gave us horned and hornless cattle for hides, meat, milk, and wool. Ninurta introduced plows. First we Earthlings pulled them, then cattle pulled the plows. The plows, plus Enki's new grains, boosted our food growing. Anunnaki and their foremen helped us regulate the Nile. We made, as they directed, pasture land for herds of cows and goats.
In Iraq, Sumer, there was naphtha, there was asphalt, and there was bitumen. These substances seeped above the ground all over the area. With naphtha, our ancestors surfaced the roads, waterproofed boats, and caulked buildings. With the naphtha, we not only caulked, but we cemented, we painted, and molded. Sumer itself lacked some of the raw ores needed to make the metals, but we exchanged the naphtha from Sumer for ore all over the old world. The Anunnaki, after the flood, gave us extensive international trade routes then, so we could trade for this ore. They gave us the wheel, the carts, and the chariots, and these things certainly helped transportation. The Anunnaki, after the flood, really gave us the mathematical system, sexagesimal, that initiated the cycle of 360 degrees, timekeeping, and that divided day and night into 12 double hours. The Anunnaki gave us the lunar solar calendar of 12 months, intercalcated with a 13-month leap month. That's a lot. The Anunnaki gave us geometry. They gave us the units to measure distance, weight, and capacity. The Anunnaki taught us astronomy. They taught us the astronomy of planets, stars, constellations. They taught us the zodiac. The Anunnaki in this period, this 1,000 years of peace after the flood, gave us laws, courts, the transportation network, customs stations, and even taxes.
Each Anunnaki walled his sacred precincts, each with a skyscraping ziggurat, which is a stepped pyramid. The ziggurats rose in several steps, 7 mostly, to 90 meters, built of 2 kinds of mud brick, sun-dried for high-rise cores and kiln-burned for extra strength for stairways, exteriors, and overhangings. They bonded with bitumen as mortar. Enlil ordered a new rocket terminal at the Sinai Arabian Peninsula for craft to freight gold to Nibiru. He told Enki and his lineage to build the new terminal, space control, and guidance facilities in a mountain-like Great Pyramid he'd had built at Giza, near the Nile, at the 30th parallel. Although the Sinai Peninsula and the Giza pyramids were supposedly neutral under Nimma, Enki, and the Enkiites, they intended to control the Sinai. Let's
go through that again. The Sinai Peninsula and the Giza pyramids were supposed to be under Nimma, but Enki and his lineage were going to control it, even though Nimma was supposedly in charge. So
sorry, misunderstood that sentence. Whoever ran the Giza pyramid and the Sinai controlled space activities, the comings and goings of the gods, the vital supply link to and from Nibiru. From 10,000 BCE on, Enki's sons Marduk and Ningishita assisted Enki, as did his descendants Shu, Tefnut, Geb, and Nut. The secret plans of the Great Pyramid were in the hands of Ningishita. Viracocha, who was also probably Adad or Ishkar, gathered the descendants of Cain who survived the deluge atop the Andes. He had them build palaces there for him and his overseers. Viracocha readied couples he chose to start an empire that they would rule from Cusco. In Sumer, Ninurta built dams and drained floodwaters into rivers. In Africa, Enki, who was now called Ptah, reclaimed the Nile basin. He moved to Elephantine, Abu Island near Aswan, Syene from Aswan, which is Syene. From Abu, he ruled Egypt. His earthlings built dams, dikes, and tunnels. They controlled the Nile's flow to the Mediterranean. Enki then abdicated in Egypt, and he gave Marduk, now Ra, rule of Egypt and its earthlings. Enki divvied the rest of Africa out amongst his other sons. Nergal got South Africa. Enki kept Gibil, whom he had taught metalworking, in North Africa's mining region, and gave Ningal the Great Lakes and the headwaters of the Nile. Enki gave the grazing region further north, Sudan, to his youngest son, Dumuzi. Ningishita built a new Sinai spaceport with controls on Mount Moriah, which is the Jerusalem to be.
Marduk gave rule of the Nile lands to brother-sister ruling pairs, to Shu and Tefnut, then to their children, Geb and Nut. In Egypt, Geb and Nut had 4 children, Osiris, Isis, Seth, and Nephthys. In some versions, Isis and Nephthys were Shamgaz's daughters, whom Osiris and Seth married. Osiris took Isis, and Seth married Nephthys. Then Seth made an alliance with Shamgaz, the head of the Igigi who had settled on earth. Osiris and Isis, the couple, lived near Marduk in the northern lowlands of northern Egypt. And that's the fertile part, the good part. Seth and Nephthys settled in southern Egypt, in the upper Egypt's mountains, near Shamgaz's villa and near the Lebanon landing platform, which Shamgaz controlled. So Shamgaz and Nephis made a deal with Seth. They said, look, as long as Osiris lives, we're not going to have a good place up in the Nile where it's nice, and neither are you. Osiris, said Shamgaz, is going to succeed Marduk, and he's going to rule the fertile lower Nile, and only upper Egypt is going to be there for you and for the Igigi. So Seth, Nephthys, and Shamgaz decided to kill Osiris. Shamgaz and Seth invited him to an Aegigian royal banquet, which was honoring Aso, Egypt's visiting queen. At that party, Shamgaz drugged Osiris's wine. When Osiris passed out, Seth sealed him in a coffin, and then they tossed the coffin into the sea. Now, said Seth, I, as Marduk's only surviving descendant on earth, will rule all Egypt. Well, Isis Sarpanit, that's Marduk's wife, and Marduk retrieved Osiris's coffin from the water. Marduk wanted to kill Seth for killing Osiris, but Enki said, no, I'm not going to let you do that. But Enki did do is he extracted semen from Osiris's corpse, and Isis inseminated herself with it. She said, I'm carrying Osiris's son, our son, my son with Osiris. This son shall rule Lower Egypt. And the baby was Horon. Isis hid, and she bore Horon and trained him to fight Seth so he would avenge Osiris. And Shamgaz and the astronauts, they just ignored Isis. They figured they won. But Isis raised Horus. His duty was to kill Seth and avenge his father Osiris.
Gibel tutored Horus to manhood. Gibel taught Horus to pilot aircraft, made multi-headed missiles for him, and taught him and his earthlings to smelt iron and make iron weapons. Horus's army marched on the Sinai. Seth, rather than face Horus's better-armed army, dared Horus to an air battle. Horus flew his fighter toward Seth, who hit him with a poison dart missile. Nigashita gave Horus an antidote and a blinding weapon. Horus hit Seth with the weapon, then with the missile called the harpoon. Blind, Seth crashed, his testicles squashed. Horus bound him and dragged him before the council.
Though Enlil's council had reserved the Canaanite area, it was only supposed to be for followers of Enlil and their earthlings. But Enlil said, okay, Seth can settle in Canaan. Well, soon Seth controlled Canaan. And so he now had control of the area where the control tower is, the runway on Sinai, as well as the new mission control in Jerusalem. So now the Enkyites, through Seth, were closing a ring around Sumer. And Marduk is now solidly in at the pyramid in Egypt and at Giza. And so what he does is he says, I don't want Ningishita's face on here. I'm going to put Osiris's face on here. So he chips off Ningishita's face, and the face that we now see is the face of Osiris, who is also called Asar.
You've just heard Chapter 19, 1,000 Years of Cooperation After the Flood, and a drama of Seth, Osiris, and Horus, the First Pyramid War. In Chapter 20, we'll explore Pyramid War II, which is an all-out war between Enki's and Enlil's clans. We have several books for sale on our websites. Our websites are AquarianRadio.com, EnkiSpeaks.com, ENKISPEAKS.com, Nimah.com, which is spelled NINMAH.com, and ExtraterrestrialContact.com. Our books are Anunnaki Gods No More, Anunnaki Legacy of the Gods, and Dance of the Souls, Book 1, Pierce the Veil. These books are by Dr. Sasha Lesson, or Sasha Lesson, Ph.D., and Janet Kier Lesson. They are available on Amazon.com as well. So thank you very much for joining us. This has been your host and hostess, Janet Kier Lesson, and
Dr. Sasha Lesson. Aloha.
Broadcasting live from Maui, Hawaii.